This video is brought to you by Big Floss. Stay flossy. Why did I buy the Fujifilm X100? So why did I buy the Fuji X-F10? I've been looking for a small, pocketable point-and-shoot camera for some time now. I tried out the Fuji X70, which I loved. I ended up selling. And I tried a Lumix point-and-shoot camera, which I was fine. I didn't like the image quality very much. I ended up finding this camera, and it's basically the cousin of the X70. It's a little smaller, so it'll actually fit in my pocket. So why does the XF10 appeal to me? Number one, it's portability. This is a small point-and-shoot camera, smaller than my phone. I can keep it in my jeans pocket. I can carry it with me anywhere. There's no excuse not to have a nice camera with me at all times. Number two is the sensor. There's only two cameras on the market with an APS-C sensor this size, this camera and the Ricoh GR. I went with the Fujifilm because I love Fujifilm. I've had great experience with all the Fujifilm cameras that I've owned, and I just wanted to stick with that line of cameras. Just to give you an example, this camera, little point and shoot, has the same sensor size as this camera. That ain't gonna fit in my pocket. Also, my X100F with the wide conversion lens on it ain't gonna fit in my pocket. The third thing that I love about this camera is the lens. This has the same 18.5mm lens that the Fuji X70 has, and I love this lens. A 28mm equivalent, it's great for street photography. This is not the successor of the X70, it's more of like a cousin. There's a few differences. One, you'll notice that there's no longer an aperture control ring on the lens. That makes it a little bit smaller. There's also no articulating screen, which again makes the camera a little bit smaller. The top dial on the X70 is used for shutter speed. On this camera, it is used for different shooting modes. And then there are two additional dials that allow you to adjust aperture and shutter speed. Looking at the buttons on the back, there's only a couple here and here. I imagine that some of these dials are able to be mapped out for different shooting options. This does have the little joystick that I love. It is also on the X100F, which makes changing your focus very easy. This is what the camera sounds like with sound on. This is what the camera sounds like with the sound turned off. The lens does move a little bit when focusing. Overall, it feels very nice. The hand grip is very comfortable. I like this little thumb grip. By the looks of the photos online, I thought it was gonna be really plasticky and cheap feeling, but it actually feels really solid, very balanced. So why did I choose this camera when I have the X100F? One thing I've noticed when I'm out shooting, I love to shoot street photography with the conversion lens, which is a 28mm equivalent. I love the viewfinder on this camera, but a lot of times I'll find myself shooting like this, just to be sneaky, and I'm not looking through the viewfinder. I'm really shooting with this camera. With the conversion lens, making it a 28mm, this lens is 28mm equivalent. So it's the same thing. I like how dorky it is. It's just a dorky point and shoot camera. People are gonna think that I'm just a tourist walking around taking snapshots, when really I'm taking a picture of them eating ice cream or something. Is the XF10 going to replace my X100F? No, I will continue shooting with this camera. This camera has a lot of features that this camera doesn't. There's no perfect camera. You're always making compromises. Some of the compromises you're making with this camera, you lose the hot shoe, which I really liked about the X70. Hey, this is a review for the Fuji X70. No, I'm just kidding. Why did I buy this camera when I had an X70? Cause I'm dumb. Another really cool feature about the XF10 is it has this digital converter lens. If you move the dial over, it adjusts the focal length from 28mm equivalent to 35 and then to 50. I haven't tested it out yet to see what the images look like, but it's a cool feature. It gives you a little bit more reach, say if you're sitting in a car trying to take photos of something that's kind of far away. I loved my X70. I sold it because I don't know why I sold it. I didn't think that I wanted to shoot with a camera that didn't have a viewfinder, but then I sold it and I missed it, so I bought this camera because the X70 is no longer in production, so all the used copies are really expensive, which is kind of why I sold it, because they're really expensive. So some other features of the XF10, it does 1080p video at 60 frames per second. It also does 4K, but only at 15 frames per second. I don't know if that's going to be usable or not. I'm probably not going to do a lot of video with this camera anyway. It's mainly for just snapshots and street photography. It doesn't come with a traditional battery charger. It has this plug-in, which is kind of nice because you can charge it on the go. It's USB, so you can plug this into a battery pack or like a car charger or something and charge the camera. So who does this camera appeal to? I think that it's definitely an entry-level camera. There's still manual controls, but there's a lot of portrait mode, landscape, sport. Then there's the SR Plus, which is like the Fujifilm auto mode. It definitely appeals to someone who's looking to get into digital photography, but because of the sensor size, it makes it a really awesome camera for somebody like me who just wants a nice camera that I can carry around with me everywhere, that takes great photos. It's going to take better photos than your phone. It's going to take better photos than a lot of the other small point-and-shoot cameras that are on the market just because of the APS-C sensor size. There is no such thing as a perfect camera, but if you're looking for something that you can just throw in a bag or in your pocket or in a jacket pocket, whatever, this can be your carry everywhere camera that takes awesome photos.